My husband died in a fire, and my sister ruined my son's baptism. I never thought I'd be planning a baptism alone. 8 months after the fire that took my husband, I found myself in our kitchen arranging white roses in glass vases. The kitchen he'd renovated with his own hands was quiet now. Too quiet. Every corner echoing his absence. Everything had to be perfect. I wanted it to feel like him, like the life we had built together. My sister, of course, had an opinion. Let's have a barbecue, or your husband is the only one who can become a woman, she said during one of the baptism planning calls, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I froze. The words stung, sharper than I expected. I held my phone like it was a fragile vase I might drop. I smiled politely, forced, and told her it wasn't funny. My mother avoided looking at her, and my father tried to diffuse the tension, but nothing could. I spent the rest of that day quietly organizing everything, making lists and cleaning. Every drawer I opened reminded me of him, the utensils he had arranged perfectly, the spice rack he'd crafted with love. It was almost cruel, the way the memories clung to the air. I poured a cup of coffee and let it sit, watching the steam curl upwards, and for a moment, I allowed myself to imagine him walking into the kitchen, smiling, teasing me about overthinking every little thing. Update 1. I remember that day vividly. 6 months ago, the flames had consumed more than our home. They had taken the man I loved, the father of my child. I had run into the burning building screaming his name, feeling helpless as the fire consumed everything, leaving only ash and smoke behind. The firefighters had done their job, but nothing could save him. The days afterward were a blur. Funeral arrangements, paperwork, endless condolences. People told me time heals all wounds, but time only stretched the ache. Nights were worst, empty beside me in bed, the silence a constant reminder of what I had lost. I recall the nights I would sit on the porch, staring at the darkened sky, feeling the weight of silence pressing against me. Sometimes I whispered to the wind, as if it could carry my words to him. Other nights I just held my son tight, letting him sleep on my chest, imagining that somehow, through him, a part of my husband was still with me. The world moved on around me, but I felt stuck in those hours of quiet despair. Update 2. Now, at the baptism, my sister's comment seemed to hang in the air like smoke. I dressed my son in a tiny white suit and he grinned at me, oblivious to the family storm around us. I focused on him. That was my anchor. Walking into the church, every face turned toward us. I felt both pride and a suffocating grief. I was raising my son without his father, making choices alone, navigating family fractures I never wanted. I wanted him to feel loved, to feel the support of family, even if the love was fractured. During the ceremony, my hands shook slightly as the priest poured water over my son's head. I imagined my husband there, smiling, whispering in my ear that everything would be okay. The congregation clapped. I held back tears, wanting him to see strength in me. My sister, predictably, leaned back in her seat, arms crossed, smirking occasionally. I ignored her. This day wasn't about her. After the ceremony, people crowded around, offering hugs and congratulations. I noticed small things. The way my son's godfather ruffled his hair, the warm laughter of friends who had supported me through the months after the fire. I realized that while my husband was gone, the community he loved was still here, still willing to carry us in ways I hadn't expected. It was a bittersweet reminder that life, no matter how fragile, persists. Update 3. After the baptism, the legal battle began. The house had survived the fire, but damage was extensive. Insurance moved slowly, and my sister seemed determined to claim moral victory over every tiny inconvenience I faced. I didn't respond to her taunts. I had no energy for battles that didn't matter. My focus was survival, finances, therapy, my son, and rebuilding a semblance of normal life. I remember evenings alone on the couch, a notebook on my lap, writing letters I'd never send. I wrote to my husband, to my son, to my sister, and even to myself. Words gave me an outlet for grief I couldn't speak aloud. Some nights I cried until my body shook. Some nights I stared at the ceiling and felt numb. I told myself it was okay to feel all of it. It was okay not to be strong all the time. Some afternoons I would take my son to the park, watching him chase other children while my thoughts wandered. I would recall small moments of joy with my husband, the way he made pancakes on Sunday mornings, the silly dances he'd do when he thought no one was watching. These memories hurt, but they also reminded me of the love that had shaped us. And I realized I could carry that love forward, not in the way it had been, but in the way I chose to live. Therapy became a lifeline. I learned to recognize my grief as a part of me, not a thing to conquer. I learned that survival could be enough, that showing up every day for my son was already a victory. Update 4. Months passed. I started freelancing, slowly paying off debts, managing the house, celebrating small victories. My son's laughter filled our new apartment, and the firefighters who had known my husband checked in regularly, offering friendship and support. Nights of nightmares faded into quiet dreams. I began small traditions, Sunday evening dinners just for the two of us, baking cookies, reading stories before bed. My son would giggle when I messed up words in the stories, and I learned to let go of the need for perfection. Perfection was gone with the fire, and trying to grasp it only left me frustrated. In its place, I embraced these imperfect moments as precious, as a quiet rebellion against the pain that had once dominated our lives. My sister and I didn't speak. Some bridges cannot be rebuilt, but I let the anger fade. I focused on my child, my work, my healing. Every day, I chose to survive. Every night, I whispered to my son that his father was proud, that he was loved, that we were okay. I started documenting small moments in a journal. Each note became a way to celebrate life, even the mundane, the way sunlight hit our balcony, the first bloom of flowers I'd planted, the laughter of neighbors. Slowly, I noticed that the heaviness I had carried was lifting, replaced by a cautious optimism I hadn't felt in months. Update 5. A year after the fire, my sister called. She had been in a minor car accident while pregnant. My heart wrenched, but I agreed to visit. In the hospital, I saw her weak, scared, carrying her unborn child. There was no apology yet, only vulnerability. "I don't want my daughter to grow up like us," she admitted. I nodded. "Then don't," I said. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just acknowledgement. She was human, flawed, scared, like I had been. We left it there, silent, fragile. Some wounds cannot be erased, but tension can soften. I noticed for the first time she wasn't looking to compete with me anymore. She was just scared, like me. That evening, walking home, I reflected on the odd comfort in our fragile truths. Life had taught me that family could be messy, that love didn't always come wrapped in harmony. But even fractured, even imperfect, it could still exist, and sometimes that was enough. Update 6. Over the next years, life became a rhythm. My son grew, school, soccer, friends. The apartment became home, walls filled with pictures and memories, both past and present. I dated slowly, cautiously, honoring the love I had lost while allowing myself to live again. Playdates with my sister's daughter became a small but meaningful bridge. We weren't close, but the children's friendship was enough to build respect. Family gatherings were civil. I had survived the fire, the grief, the betrayal, in the legal battles. Even small victories felt monumental. My son finally sleeping through the night, my first freelance client praise, a weekend spent with friends laughing without guilt. These small moments accumulated, building the foundation of a life I hadn't thought possible. I also learned to let my son express his grief. Some nights he would ask about his father, sometimes angry, sometimes sad. I would listen, tell stories, and cry quietly alongside him. This shared grief, though painful, became a bond between us. And in that bond, I found both strength and solace. Update 7. 10 years after that baptism, my son was 12, tall, playful, proud. My sister's daughter was his friend, and our families, though still separate, had found a stable, if imperfect, peace. One afternoon, my sister handed me a letter she had written years ago. An apology, a confession, a hope that we could exist without hatred. I read it slowly, tears filling my eyes. I forgave her, not because her actions were right, but because I needed peace. Not a fairy tale ending, not perfect reconciliation, but progress. Enough. That night, I sat on the porch, looking at the stars, thinking of my husband, my son, the life we had built from ashes. I whispered, "We made it. We're okay." And for the first time in years, I truly believed it. Not perfect, not unscathed, but enough.